Welcome to the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Transport Briefing for Monday, April 14th. Currently across the Great Basin, we have plenty of prescribed fire activity, especially across Idaho and Utah, with a couple new small wildfires that have popped up but have remained small and are not currently an issue. Over the last 7 to 14 days, we've seen very dry conditions. Over the last 7 days, the dry conditions have really been across most areas of the Great Basin. The only exceptions have been into parts of central Idaho and northwest Wyoming. Over the last 2 weeks, the driest areas have been across the southern half of Nevada into western Utah, but really all of the Great Basin has generally seen below normal precipitation. The only exceptions are parts of central Idaho, parts of southern Utah, and into the Sierra. Over the last 72 hours, we've seen new snowfall up in parts of central Idaho, but even this snowfall has only been really in the 6 to 10 inch range in most areas. The snow depth is indicated on the right. And you can see from our current snowpack, we are still sitting near normal across the northern half of the Great Basin, and even some areas just a little bit above normal. Further south, the snow has definitely been tapering off quickly, especially since it's been below normal all season, but is currently well below normal and below 20% in the south. Looking at our current drought conditions, the Evaporative Demand Drought Index showing us our shorter-term drought, you can see really no significant issues. There are some drier areas there over the southern areas of the Great Basin due to the dryness we've seen recently, but we have had some recent moisture. So again, we're not seeing any significant areas of shorter-term drought. The satellite image from this morning shows a ridge of high pressure dominating the west, keeping things dry and warmer across the Great Basin, but that will certainly be changing this week. So for today, again, generally dry conditions. There is a weak low developing off the Southern California coast, but any moisture associated with that should be to our south. We could see a few showers or thunderstorms in the higher terrain of the Sierra or in some of the higher mountains in far western Nevada that we've seen over the last couple of days, but they should be fairly isolated and again confined to the far western side. Otherwise, dispersion will be poor across parts of Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah due to the ridge and lighter winds, and will be a little bit higher over parts of Nevada. You can see really winds overall very light, especially over the eastern half of the Great Basin, but even in western areas. Mixing heights will remain high with the exception of up north. Temperatures today will remain above normal, especially over the western half of the Great Basin, where temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s in the valleys and upper 80s down south. Otherwise, normal temperatures across parts of Idaho, Wyoming, and into Utah. And relative humidity will be quite low across the southern half to 2/3 of the Great Basin, with most areas in the single digits or low teens. Even up into Idaho in the lower elevations, we are seeing some teens for relative humidity. Looking at the weather pattern for Tuesday, that low becomes a little bit more developed off the Southern California coast, so we will see moisture into the Great Basin. However, most of this will be in the form of cloud cover, but we could see a little bit more shower and thunderstorm activity in the Sierra and the higher terrain of far western Nevada starting tomorrow. But again, will be somewhat isolated or widely scattered, and most areas further east just seeing some cloud cover. Otherwise, dispersion should remain low in the north and generally good over Nevada and Utah. Transport winds showing generally light winds with the exception of parts of southern areas of the Great Basin where we might see some gusts in the teens or low 20s. Otherwise, mixing heights remain high with the exception of central Idaho. Temperatures will continue to warm in all areas of the Great Basin on Tuesday and generally be above normal, with most valley highs in the 70s with the exception of down south where we'll still see upper 80s. Relative humidity remaining low across all areas of the Great Basin, but not quite as low as what we'll see today as that cloud cover moves in, despite the raising temperatures. We will see most areas in the teens. As we move into Wednesday, this is the better day where we'll start to see a little bit more precipitation across parts of the Great Basin associated with this low, mainly over western and northern Nevada, the Sierra, and even pushing up into southern Idaho. The dispersion will remain generally good across most areas of the Great Basin. We will see transport winds increase up north with some gusts in the 20s or 20 to 25 miles per hour. And similarly down south, we'll see most of those gusts in the teens or around 20 miles per hour. Otherwise, high mixing heights continue. Temperatures will start to cool as that moisture moves in, but still remaining above normal in most areas of the Great Basin. And relative humidity, we will start to see that rise as that moisture moves in as well, with most areas above 20% across the northern half of Nevada, up into Idaho and northern Utah, and still some drier conditions down south. The 3-day precipitation, you can see much of this moving in for the Wednesday, Thursday time period. Still generally light with the heavier amounts in the Sierra, but still at least most areas seeing some light precipitation or increases in relative humidity. As we move into Thursday, this low will continue to track further east and open up a little bit as another trough drops in from the north. So this will further enhance precipitation over the eastern half of the Great Basin. Otherwise, this will kick up winds and ventilation index, so we'll see good dispersion region-wide. By Friday, that low still remains generally across the Great Basin. This is that southern California low that will move eastward, so still keeping moisture across the region with some clouds and some light showers. And then by Saturday, this low tracks eastward towards the Four Corners area with drier conditions over western areas of the Great Basin and up north temporarily, and those unsettled conditions will be mainly across Utah and eastern Nevada and down into Arizona. By Sunday, we will see another system dropping down from the north to bring some moisture up to Idaho yet again, along with an increase in winds. And precipitation, this is looking at Thursday through Friday night. So you can see as those systems move across the Great Basin, we will see some good amounts of precipitation over eastern Nevada into Utah and parts of Wyoming, with lighter showers up north in Idaho and also some decent precipitation in the Sierra. And then going later in the weekend, we will see drier conditions in between systems, but still that lingering moisture as those lows track eastward over the eastern half of the Great Basin. And then the 7-day total precip obviously takes everything into account. So the only real drier spots of the Great Basin that may not see as much moisture from these systems will be parts of northwest Nevada and southwest Idaho, and even to a lesser degree, parts of far eastern Utah. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from April 21st through the 27th, shows generally near or below normal temperatures with kind of a mix of drier conditions in the far west, at least with respect to normal, and above normal precipitation further east. So definitely storm systems continuing to move across the Great Basin, giving us some potential for moisture and keeping fire danger on the lower side. So we will continue to see the normal spring type conditions. I will say the models are having a really hard time with this transition pattern for springtime. So they've been somewhat unreliable, especially as we get into the longer term, but definitely something to keep an eye on. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Wednesday for the latest updates.